Hello, everybody. I am Dane Fredrickson. I am a video strategy and production expert, and I am joined today by Anthony Pierri, who I am dying to talk to you all with. He is a B2B positioning expert. And we met recently on LinkedIn. We've just been chatting about positioning, and I always like to do these conversations where I'm learning, and then you're sharing your expertise, and I can share mine, and we kind of come up with some new ideas and perspectives that people probably won't get other places because it's you and I coming together. So that's sort of the big idea here. But let's just kind of kick it off with let's talk about your background. How did you get into B2B positioning, and like what do people really need to know about you? And this is sort of the elevator pitch, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. So I started in tech very late in life. I came from a background in a completely different field and then got into tech, was working at an agency that did a bunch of different things. And I met my co-founder of the business that we eventually started together there. And we had a lot of learnings from this very custom services agency that we worked in. And we saw the struggles of trying to position yourself when you do many different things for many different people. And it
Yeah.
made our outbound sales kind of impossible, not successful. Our marketing efforts never really did anything. We seemed more generic. It didn't stand out. And so we were actually able to incubate the business that we are in now as part of that agency. And we did it with essentially the exact opposite approach. We're going to do one thing for one type of customer. We're going to sell it for one price. We're going to promote it on one channel. And we're going to try this for 1 year. We got that model from this guy named Greg Hickman. It's called like the 5 ones. I might have only said 4. I think there's a 5th one. But shout out to Greg, though. Really good stuff. So we did that, and then we launched the business, and our one channel was LinkedIn, and we were posting thought leadership, and we didn't know exactly what we wanted to sell. We really liked a lady named April Dunford, who was into this thing
I
called
interviewed her
positioning.
before. She's great.
She's great.
Yeah.
And we said maybe we could try to be like, the little brother to April, and she's the OG, she's the
Yeah.
goat. We could be second in place. So we started learning about positioning, trying to apply it, trying to build our own framework, and we wanted a way to make it palatable for people to buy because not everyone goes out shopping for strategy. And so we eventually stumbled into this niche pairing of saying we'll help you figure out your positioning as a way to rewrite the homepage of your website. So most people found it easier to refer us, to think of us, to remember us because we were attached to this very tangible asset, which was a new rewritten homepage. And that allowed a lot of people to spread us. It made our content way more focused because people could say, oh, we're about to do a big website refresh. We're about to do a big marketing campaign. Maybe we just hired a new CMO or something, and we're going to spend all this money. Let's make sure that we have the homepage really dialed in and that the positioning is right, that we actually are saying the right things to the right people. And since then, we've been able to work with now over 500 B2B companies on their positioning. Our team is still small. It's 4 of us, full-timers, and we're running 2-week positioning sprints. First week is all around the strategy. Second week is all around the homepage translation. And we've gotten to work with some really cool startups, some much larger companies. And effectively, that's kind of it's a little bit longer than the elevator pitch, but it's maybe it's a tall elevator.
It's all good stuff, and you've given me so many threads I want to pull on. I kind of don't know which one to ask about first, but I do. Maybe the one you just mentioned last is you're talking about strategy. So, like, just from my own perspective, I'm kind of doing a similar thing now, and this is very new to me. So I'm very curious how you kind of got to this place where you're selling something people need to have, like a website landing page. It's like kind of like a pretty obvious thing. You're gonna need that. Like the first thing they see, that sounds pretty important, right? So, for me, I've always been a video producer. I've always made video content for the past 30 years, but like only recently am I starting to sell video strategy. And like I quickly learned that's a very interesting thing because some people are like, we have to have a strategy before we move forward. And other people are like, we don't need a strategy. So like, it's a kind of a weird word, polarizing word. And this comes into the positioning part. It's like, do I want to position myself as selling strategy? Or is that kind of like push half the market away? Because B2B marketers, they need to be doing more with video, and they know that. And this is where the website part comes in. Is very interesting. Is like people definitely know they need a website. Do they definitely think they need video on their website? Increasingly, yes, right? And so I think that there's a play here where I can package the strategy as something that goes on the website as well. It's a very sort of interesting point that's worked for you. And I guess I'm curious to think, like, what was the point where you felt like you knew how to sell positioning? Because it's so hard for people to know, like, when you get it right. Like, how do you know you're headed in the right direction to get it right? On one hand, you've got to test it forever, and it's always going to change. But on the other hand, you don't want to go off in the wrong, like the wrong way, and just commit to something that's not going to work out. So how do you sell a strategy in that context of like making sure it's going to be right?
Totally. We used to really struggle with this because we wanted to be able to put short-term metrics to measure the success. Oh, you can run an A/B test. Oh, you can show it to someone on a call and see if they like it.
Yeah.
And that never sat well with us because we're like, that doesn't really match how positioning actually works in the real world. And companies will effectively have the same positioning for many years. And in the span of those years, they might go from making a couple $100,000 a year to multiple, hundreds of millions. Like Calendly is a good example.
Yeah.
Since they were making, I don't know, 300K a year, they've effectively had the same positioning to now they make like 275 million.
So what
how
changed?
do you do exactly? It's over time. It's compounding. It's a long-term bet. So eventually we were like, positioning is a long-term bet. And that's kind of just the reality. And it deals with the same problems that like that lean startup book was trying to solve 20 years ago, where it was like, when do I pivot and when do I persevere? Is my positioning not working because it's fundamentally broken? Is it not working because the market dynamics are working against it? Is it not working because I just haven't given it enough time?
Yeah.
Right? Like Zoom is a great example. They had the same positioning in 2019, floundering company, and then the same positioning in 2020 made them the most valuable company in the world for a little bit because COVID happened. And so they could have looked at 2019 and been like, this whole remote video thing for Teams, it's not really worth doing. Like we should switch. We should do something else. And they would have missed what happened in 2020. So that's why it's so challenging. And we've moved away from using the language of like short-term anything. And now we say the language of don't run a positioning sprint unless you're willing to commit to whatever the sprint produces for at least a year.
Right.
So it's like your time scale at minimum is a year. And sometimes people will get really antsy about that and they'll say, well, I need to experiment. I need to keep
I would imagine always.
Yeah. But a lot of times the best customers will come to us and say, we've been banging our heads against the wall for months or maybe even longer. Yeah. We know that there's 4 different options we could take and we really just need to make a decision. Yep. Those are the best clients for us because we can help them really understand the implications of each decision, the bets that they would be making, how does that affect their product strategy, their go-to-market strategy, and then ultimately helping them make a call. And then writing a homepage, once you've made that hard decision, becomes a piece of cake, right? It's only hard when you haven't made a decision because people will say, well, I want to speak to all these audiences, but I want to have a very sharp pain, like speak to the very sharp pain point or a very sharp message. We're like, well, you understand that those are 2 contradictory ideas. A broad message to make a sharp pain. They're literally opposites. Like you can't be sharp and broad. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into making those decisions. But in general, we now talk about them as making longer term positioning bets. And the immediate win, it's sort of like that principle. I think either my dad or my grandpa used to say this. It's much easier to steer the ship once it's left the harbor. And so I see a lot of these founders who are just waiting at the harbor and are not making a choice. Yeah. They're just sort of letting everything peter out and they're getting stuff a little bit here and
paralysis.
There. Analysis paralysis. And we're like, dude, just make a choice. Start charging at something and then you'll be able to figure out it's going to work. And the other piece too is we mostly work with companies, let's say, that are higher ACV, so maybe, like at least in the tens of thousands per year to buy them. Most of them are relying on traditional sales and marketing tactics to grow the business because you don't really have to follow a lot of these rules if you are product-led growth that has this viral mechanism that can spread you all over the place. If you can get value in a couple seconds, like ChatGPT, for example, they didn't really have to do like positioning in the traditional sense because there was no like go-to-market campaign. It was like, we have this world-changing technology. You can get value from it in 5 seconds. You don't even
Fire. Try.
exactly.
It'll cook your food.
Yeah, like just literally send it out and it will go. And that's what they did. They released it to the wild and it spread like wildfire.
Yeah.
Those are not the types of software companies we're working with.
Yeah.
We're working with companies that are going to have some level of implementation. They're going to have to go through procurement. They're going to be using traditional sales and marketing to promote this thing. And then you have to start thinking about all those constraints. We don't have infinite money, so we can't run 50 different go-to-market strategies at the same time. We've got a small team. We're probably going to have to make some trade-offs and some hard calls and point ourselves in one direction over the others.
So as we start wrapping up here, I'm kind of curious, like the takeaway for people, like I'm just curious, like how do you know when you're ready for positioning? Like, do you need to have your product at a certain maturity? And you mentioned that people have like 4 different positions they're toying with.
Yeah.
Like, is that the tipping point where like then they reach out to you and they're ready for this, or what's that journey like?
So in our context of B2B software companies that are going to use traditional sales and marketing to sell a slightly higher ticket product, in that context, especially for startups, it's a sort of like an equation of how much runway do you have left? I think in general, it takes at least a year to bring a position to market using traditional sales and marketing at any level of success. And then to get clients, like imagine you talk about a 3 to 6 month sales cycle, it might take you 6 months to get the marketing producing any leads at all. So assuming you get the marketing out there around this new positioning strategy, it takes you 6 months, maybe you could do it in 3 if you're really, really good. Then you've got a 3 to 6 month sales cycle. And then you got to see, are these even good customers, right? We just landed these people at this $50K a year deal. Do they actually upsell? Do they stick around? Do they churn? So you're talking at least about a year. So let's say you have 2 years of runway. You can really only afford to experiment for a year. And then at the end of that year, you're like, all right, time to make a decision because we really have to make this work in the next year.
Yep.
And so that sort of becomes the deciding factor is how much runway do you have? How long are you willing to stay in a pre-positioned experimentation mode? And then when are you going to run out of runway knowing that it's going to take you 12 months where you kind of just have to make the bet and be like, this is where we're going to go and it better work or this is not going to get legs.
Right. Okay. So we're out of time here. What if people want to get in touch with you and explore if this is a good fit for them? Where should they find you?
I would say my LinkedIn profile is a great place to start. FletchPMM.com is a great hub for what we do. And you can use it to, see if we practice what we preach. Read our website, see if you understand what we do, who we're for, the value we provide, how it works. Like theoretically, if we are good at positioning, you should have very crystal clear answers to all those questions. So this will be a fun test.
Yeah. Well, this is a fun conversation, Anthony. Thanks for making time today.
Totally. Thanks for having me.
Okay.